Welcome to Love Jones Connection. I'm Erin, and today I'm going to be talking about my journey from single to now married with children. I want to talk about my journey, and I hope that it will encourage and inspire anyone out there who may be single right now and desiring a better outcome in your dating journey, desiring something committed, something leading into a marriage. I want to share my story and I hope that it helps you and it encourages you. And a big part as to why I started my channel is to share what I learned in my journey, what I'm learning even now. Being married, that's a big part in why I started it, and I hope you find it helpful. Now, prior to meeting my husband, I was in a location that I actually initially moved to for college. I moved there at 18. I started college, and then after graduating, I ended up working full time in my field. And then shortly after that, I ended up purchasing a condo. And at that time, I was really excited about my first home. And at that time, it was just me and my dog. And then a few years went by, and I started to feel as if the location I was in, I wanted to leave. To be honest, I didn't really care for the dating scene in the area I was in, and I really felt like it was time to go. And when I started thinking about moving, I felt overwhelmed because of the fact that I had the condo. And I felt like the condo had now become a ball and a chain for me, where it was like I couldn't just up and go. It was a whole thing I had to figure out. And at that time, renting wasn't an option for me because the HOA was already at capacity on what they would allow and how many renters they were allowing. They had to have a certain number of owners currently in the community. And so that wasn't an option. However, finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm ready to go. And so I ended up deciding that I would prep my home to sell. And then with the proceeds from the sell, I could just start fresh in a new city. And I already had in mind where I wanted to move. It was a location. I had family already there. And I felt like the dating scene would be better. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do that. So I took time to myself. I wasn't dating anyone. I wasn't in a relationship at that time. The main goal for me was just to get my home together to sell. I had to paint it. I had accent walls. I had things that I had to change in order to make it attractive for a buyer. And I took some months out and just really focused on getting my home together to sell. And so finally, the work paid off and it was time to list my home to sell. And I contacted my realtor. He came by, took photos, and he ended up listing the home. I want to say it was like on a Wednesday. And I was going to have my first set of visitors to come on a Saturday. And Saturday came. I was going to have my visitors to come and look at the home. I took my dog. We were gone all day. And then I remember coming home and just really excited after the open house and everyone came to see who was going to come visit. I ended up coming home that day and just really feeling like a new chapter. I was going to be entering into a new chapter. I was really excited to have finally accomplished the goal of listing my home. Then that Sunday rolls around the following day, and I get a call from my realtor, and he's like, look, we got a full offer, and they do not need any closing costs. They're not asking you for anything. They're ready to go. They're going to close in about a month. And I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course, I accept the offer. And then it started getting real. It was like, okay, oh my gosh, now I have to apply for a new job. And I didn't feel concerned about finding a new job in the location I wanted to move to because I had applied to jobs in that location before. And they would always, typically call me back. And it would always be an issue with the start date. I never really could give a solid start date because I still had the condo and I still had to figure that part out. So I really was never really ready to move out of state when I would apply. And so I was like, well, now is perfect time because now I'm ready. My home is listed. I'm under contract. It should be no issue getting a new job. So I started applying to jobs and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get a call back. And so week one went by of being under contract. Then week two, still no calls. And then we went into week three. I still didn't get a call back. And I'm like, and during this time, oh, excuse me. During this time, I was in prayer, like, God, I really need to get to this location. Please, get me this job, give me favor. I was doing all of that. And time continued to move forward. I got closer and closer to my start date. It was a crazy time. I remember just everything. If you've ever sold or purchased a home, it can be really hectic. And so I was still believing that I would get that job. And so I remember one time in particular, as I started getting closer to my closing date, I had got a phone call from the area code that I was desiring to move to. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is somebody calling me about a job. And come to find out it was a telemarketer. I mean, it was crazy. And so the closing date, the week of closing finally got there. They had a few snags to come up. They kept pushing the time back, pushing the day back. And my hot water heater went out the day before closing. I had to get that fixed. It was a crazy time. So finally, the day of closing arrives. I closed on a Friday. Finally, the Friday for closing comes. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, okay. So I get to the lawyer's office and we do the paperwork. We get all of that done and the deal is done. And so at that time, I'm walking to my car after closing. I walked to my car. It was a beautiful Friday. I remember just feeling like, wow, I'm done. I sold it. We're good. I'm free to move about. And I remember walking to my car. I had the biggest smile on my face. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just sold it. And the wire for the sale had already hit my account. Okay. So I was just really happy. And I remember walking to my car and the lawyer who actually did the closing, she was walking to her car as well. And she looked over at me and she was just like, congratulations. And I'm like, thank you. And so we're done. And now, mind you, I sold my home. So I didn't really have a home to go back to. And so, but that was okay. I already had planned on doing a hotel and I got a nice hotel. My dog was already in a dog hotel. And so I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to get me a nice hotel suite. And then I'm going to give more time to get a call back. I'm going to continue to work and then just do the hotel for, a little while longer. I'll get a call. And I didn't want to stay with a friend. I didn't want to do any of that. I liked having my own space. And so I do the hotel, excited. I remember the day that I closed, one of the conversations that I had was, wow, I wonder where I'm going to be a year from now. That was a big deal for me because the whole sell, all of that was just based on faith, me believing that, look, it's a better outcome, is something better than where I am. And did the hotel. And then the hotel, I got through week one, again, still going to my job and everything. And still no call back about the job. And then started getting into week two, still no call back or anything. And I'm like, look, I mean, I can't keep spending money on a hotel. Now, I did get some money from the sale, but it wasn't enough to retire early or just not work anymore or just throw money out. It wasn't like that. And I was like, okay, look, I'm going to have to do a short-term apartment lease because I'm not getting a call back and I can't leave my current job until I secure another one. So I decided after 2 weeks in the hotel that I would just do a short-term apartment lease. I don't know why I didn't think to do an Airbnb. At that time, I don't believe Airbnb was as popular as it is now. So I really didn't think to do that. So I ended up doing an apartment. I did a 6 month apartment lease. And I was like, look, I'll do the apartment. In a few months, I will look for another job. In a few months, I'll try to relocate again. In a few months, I'm going to take a break from it. So I ended up continuing to work. I still was in the city that I wasn't crazy about, but I was like, look, I'm going to just make the best of it. I'm here for now. So within a few months, I still felt like I wanted to leave. And if anything, the feeling of wanting to leave intensified. And so I was like, okay, it's been a few months. I want to try to relocate again. And so at that time, the desire to relocate to the initial city that I planned on moving to completely went away from me. It was like, look, I'm done. I don't want to move there. I was completely over it. And so I started to apply for jobs based on if it was a position that I think I would enjoy in a location that I heard good stuff about. And I found a job I applied to, and I was like, okay, yeah, it's in a location I think I would like. I heard good things. I'm going to go ahead and apply. And I ended up getting a call back. I got a call back within a week. We did an interview. The interview went well, and they made an offer. Now, initially, I did decline the offer. And then they came back, and it was on my terms. And I was like, okay, great, I will accept. So I accepted the new job. I was going to be relocating out of state, and it was exciting. Now, prior to actually moving again, I was in my apartment, and one night in particular, I was in my bed and I woke up. It was after midnight. I woke up and I remember just talking to God. Woke up in the middle of the night, I know, woke up and just really like, God, like, when? When am I going to meet my husband? Here I am alone. I honestly, at that time for me, if I'm being honest, I felt lonely. I really did. I felt like I wanted to meet my husband. I felt like I just wanted to fall in love and I wanted to have a family. I really felt that way. And I was like, God, like when is it going to happen? That was the how it went for me. What the conversation in my mind went like to God, the prayer. And I just remember during that time, it just dropped on me. And I know it was God. And because I didn't hear from him all the time. So this particular time, it dropped on me. All I heard him say to me was, he's coming. And it was so clear to me that I remember thinking like, who's coming? Who? And that was it. That's all I got. And I didn't think much else of it after that. I just, carried on. I was in the middle of relocating anyway. I had put my notice in at my job. I was going to be moving. And I remember a few days leading up to me moving out of state, it was even crazier for me because now I'm moving out of state, not just across town. So that became a whole ordeal. The day of the move was just crazy. Things weren't really working out the way I planned because, I initially thought I was going to be just loading up my car and taking whatever could fit in the car, and then that didn't work out. It was a whole ordeal. Long story short, I ended up finally getting to my destination and excited to be in a new city, excited to be in the new job. And I want to say about a month and a half after moving, it was less than 2 months of moving, I ended up meeting my husband. And fast forward, we were together for a few months. After being together for a few months, my husband and I, he ended up proposing to me. And the day that he proposed to me, that day is of significance for a number of reasons. But I want to highlight that the day he proposed to me was the day that I closed on my home a year prior. It was 1 year, the same day, a year later. And I didn't even think about it until after the fact. My husband didn't even know that I closed on that day. When you close on a home, you remember the date. Well, for me, I do. I remember the month and day and all of that. And I had no idea because my husband proposed to me on his birthday. I had no idea that my closing date was the birth date of my future husband. I had no idea. He proposed to me 1 year later to the day. And that is really crazy to me. And just, I'm blown away. I know it was God because he knew that had someone told me, okay, I'll put it this way. Had someone told me that when I asked the question on the day of my closing in the conversation, when I put it out there, look, I wonder where I'm going to be a year from now. When I put that out there, if somebody would have told me, oh, girl, you're wondering where you're going to be a year from now, oh, girl, you are going to be engaged, I would be blown away. And that is how it went for me. And I say all that to say that everything that I did leading up to that, now granted, it didn't go exactly how I planned, as far as me thinking I'm going to move to a particular location and then I'm going to meet my husband there. No, it didn't work out the way I initially thought, but it worked out for the better because I ended up meeting my husband in the location that I moved to, while in the location that I moved to. And the location that I initially thought that I wanted to move to for family and for a better outcome, the family that I was initially trying to get next to, they actually ended up moving. They left. They left that location like a year or so after me attempting to move there, or a couple of years later. They ended up leaving. And then after I got engaged, my husband and I ended up getting married. We got married 1 year from our first day. And so that happened. But I say all of that to say that if you're currently dating right now, or if you're currently single, just know that continue to work, continue to believe that you'll meet your partner, even when things don't work out the way you initially planned. Just know that God is still working on your behalf, that He's still prepping, He's still getting stuff in order for you. Continue to be faithful, continue to do the things that you know you should be doing. I talk about in my 5 dating tips video, one of the things that I talk about, if you haven't checked it out, I'm going to put it in the description box. One of the things that I talk about is stepping outside your comfort zone. Me moving, and then I had to move again after I got engaged because my husband was in a different state. I ended up having to relocate again. But moving out of my condo, selling my condo, then moving to an apartment, then moving again, all of that was very uncomfortable for me. And I had to step out my comfort zone to get a better outcome. I couldn't keep complaining about what I didn't like on where I was living and then not do anything about it. And then on top of that, when I met my husband, I did not have any situationships, I was 100% available to my husband, to meet him, to get to know him, to be emotionally available. I say all of that to say, continue to be available, continue to do the work on you, continue to be receptive, continue to believe that you will meet your husband, that you will meet your match, that you will have a better outcome. I hope you do, and I hope you find my story encouraging, and I hope it inspires you to keep going and do not give up. Because had I given up when things didn't work out the way that they went initially, had I been like, okay, it's not meant for me to move, I'm going to stay in this city and continue to complain. But no, I got back up and I continued to push. So I encourage you to keep pushing, girl, keep working, and just believe that a better outcome is possible collectively.